Welcome back. All dogs gotta eat. I hope you guys have been doing well. I went through a little bit of a rough patch past week or so. Um, about a little over a week ago, I was at the bar, hopefully to meet new people. I don't know that many people in the city yet, and I spent a lot of time with my ex, and that was kind of my whole social circle. So I went there to meet people, and I ran into my ex. So at first I was just gonna leave, but then I was like, don't let her presence ruin your night, because it was really the only bar that like you can dance and meet people at um, on Friday nights. So I went back and I said, just avoid her. And eventually a conversation broke out between us, and she was like, I need you to take me home tonight. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. Um, I knew that she would regret that in the morning. I knew I would regret that in the morning. And also, I'm attempting celibacy. So, for my mental and physical health. But then it got to the point where she's like, if you don't sleep with me, I'll just get someone else here tonight to do it. And we both knew that she could go up to any dude in the bar and take him home. Um, and I was like, I can maybe take you back and hold you tonight, but they were really her and her friends were digging into me like you gotta do it or whatnot. And I, I mean, I fell into the peer pressure and I did, but I later found out that between our breakup and that moment, maybe a week before that moment, she was talking to someone else that she met on a dating app and slept with him. And that kind of upset me that she slept with me after that. It upset me even more. What she thought would make it better, what made it worse for me, she said, well, it wasn't just a hookup. Like I was wanting to date him, but he didn't feel the same way. And that made me even more insecure because I was like, you were trying to date someone like 2 weeks after we broke up? What the hell? Um, and that whole situation made me extremely insecure. The fact that she could just sleep with anyone, the fact that we break up and she's just probably swarmed 24/7. And it wasn't like a new insecurity. I think most dudes do have a sense of like, they don't like how, especially with like dating apps, will amplify this, how like women get it pretty easily because the top 10% of dudes sleep with like 80% of the women, kind of thing. Where if you're like a seven by society standards as a man, you're probably not gonna get a seven woman, because the women that are sevens are sleeping with nines and tens. Um, so the distribution's off, and I think that causes a lot. But growing up, I was very undesirable. I was about 40 pounds skinnier, and I'm still skinny now, so I was very skinny. I was weird, still weird now, but I just had no social, no, like I didn't, you know. So I was very undesired for most of my life. Even throughout all my teens, it wasn't until like 2021 that like I developed a little bit of a sense of game. Um, so I was just having a really rough weekend, and shit was always on my mind. If it wasn't that specific situation, it was other related insecurities coming up. So I had to do something. So insecurities are like, it's like getting shot with an arrow. Imagine there's an arrow in your arm. Now it would hurt to take that arrow out. So if you don't want to take that arrow out, you just leave it in. Now with an arrow, it's pretty obvious you shouldn't just leave that in. But we do that a lot with insecurities. We leave them in because to think about them, and we just don't want to think about them. The second we start thinking about insecurities, we think about something else. We leave that arrow in. And if a year goes by, you're eventually going to either have to live with that arrow in you your whole life, or you're going to have to take it out sometime. So take it out sooner than later. So I was thinking, okay, I looked up, some information, how to get rid of insecurities and whatnot. Some of it I already knew, but clearly not to the extent because I didn't know what to do in this situation. And I've previously gotten over insecurities such as not being good with women and whatnot. But clearly I didn't fully get over it because here it is again, arrow in my side. So what you got to do is you got to. This is hard. It's not an easy thing to do. It's uncomfortable, but it's more uncomfortable not to do this. So I think it's very important. You got to think about them. You got to think, and that second that thought that like makes you like feel bad, you got to keep thinking about it. But you got to think about it in a productive way. Now, one of the first things that's very important is you got to learn to, and this isn't a skill you can develop overnight. So you won't be good at this at first, but you have to learn to distance yourself from your emotions. And what that means is you got to kind of think of yourself like a character in a book or a friend. Like you got to think of yourself in third person, where it's like, I'm sad because of this. Instead of feeling sad, just like acknowledge that you're sad and kind of like objectively think about your emotions, which is a weird thing to do, but it's something that's practiced by like shamans, monks, stoics, like a lot of wise people throughout all of history have practiced distancing yourself from your emotions. So I mean, I've talked to people who think it's psychotic, but it's necessary for things like this. Um, so once you distance yourself from your emotions, truly think like, yeah, I'm insecure because women have it easy with sex. Why does that make me insecure? I realized it wasn't just one thing. Part of it was jealousy. It was like, I wish I could just go out and have everyone want me. Uh, Part of it was, yeah, feeling unwanted. It wasn't just one thing, because if like a woman slept with another woman, it wouldn't really upset me. So I had to think like, okay, what's the difference? Get to the core of why your insecurity makes you insecure, kind of thing. And then you got to think of like all the situations. Like I was thinking of a bunch of different things. And I mean, I've gotten over the whole dating app. I realize the dating app game is rigged. Against, I mean, but even women don't have it easy. Even though it's easy for them to get matches, it's kind of like how rich people have other problems and their money doesn't really solve their problems. It's just and I don't get jealous of rich people. So I'm like, why am I getting jealous of people who can flirt with whoever? Like, why am I jealous of the top 1% of men kind of thing? So those are things that you can start digging deeper on. And then I think of all these situations that even happened years ago that I still remember. Because if I still remember them and think about them, and I don't want to think about them, then that's part of the insecurity. So you gotta delve into all these things. Like, and some of the things, once you start thinking about calmly in a meditative state, you're like, oh, that's silly. Like, for example, one time, really recently actually, I was at brunch with this woman, and she mentioned, I'm talking about moving to this other city. She's like, oh, I lived there during college. Like, it was my favorite city to live in. I mean, to be fair, I had a summer fling with this dude with a yacht, so that made it more enjoyable. And my first instinct was, I never get to have a summer fling with a girl with a yacht. That'd be awesome. Um, I'm like, dudes with yachts probably have it so easy. And obviously, in my head, I just imagined this dude as an absolute Chad. He might not have been that attractive. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I just assumed. And that's something that when you're digging into these situations, you can start to realize and learn. Because part of what you have to do is realize the reality of the situation. Like, for example, with the dating apps and stuff, um, you realize the reality is like, oh, most dudes aren't getting a bunch of matches. Like, you realize that there's like 5 times as many dudes on these apps than women, and you're still gonna get less than 5 times the matches because dudes are swiping more. Stuff like that. You got to realize the reality of the situation and not just the picture that your mind created. And then back on the story that I was on, um, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I mean, a dude had a yacht, and I'm assuming he's attractive. Maybe not, but let's just say he is. He could probably get whoever. You know, I'm talking. I mean, I slept with this girl that was with a dude on a yacht. That's pretty good. Also, she wasn't a 10. I was more attracted to her before my ex, but then I realized like my standards rose, and I realized like a lot. Like I was kind of like, I was like, she's 6. If 5 is average, she's cute. She's got cute qualities. She's got some unattractive qualities. So that kind of took away a lot of the jealousy. Where it's like, okay, well, I've also been with her. Like, yeah, I didn't have a yacht, but that means that it took that dude to have a yacht to do that. If that's what she remembers about him, I did it purely off my personality. Like, that's pretty good. Um, and you just gotta do that with every single one of the situations. And you really on the whole reality thing. Sorry that this is a little jumbled. I don't have a script and I'm talking about a lot right now, but like if you go online, you're gonna think that a lot more women are just sleeping with hundreds of dudes than in reality. If all women were sleeping around all that much, then dudes wouldn't have a problem getting laid. It's a small percentage of women doing that. Now, like I said with the money thing, like there's no need to be jealous of a small population. If 1% of people are doing something, no reason to be jealous about it. Um, and earlier in my life, when I first became like pretty decent with women, I'd say above average as a man. What I was doing, I think, to cope with insecurities was uh, kind of sleeping around a little bit. And that's not a good solution because one, I mean, it can band-aid the insecurity, but that insecurity's still there. Or like if you stop seeing a lot of women, then it'll come back. B, it's not good for your mental health or your physical health. Sex is a drug, and we do it. I mean, if you're not in love with the person or in a relationship, the reason why we do it is the same reason why we do drugs, to feel better about ourselves, for a quick dopamine boost, stuff like that. So, being promiscuous yourself is not a valid option. Also, if you don't want to marry someone that's super promiscuous, women aren't going to want to marry you either if you're super promiscuous. So, it goes both ways. Um, I think that's important for men to know, especially with like people like Andrew Tate. I'm not gonna completely bash him, but he does say a lot of. We gotta realize like he does say a lot of things that are like, okay, women shouldn't be promiscuous. Yet he kind of pimps out women, but he also encourages men to be promiscuous. How can men physically be promiscuous if women weren't? Doesn't make sense. It's not good for your mental health. I feel like there's another point, but I'm not going to have an awkward pause in this video. So clearly it wasn't that important. Um, gonna wrap this up. Um, this works for other insecurities, not just my specific situation, but and it might, if it's a big one, you might have to think about it for multiple days. Maybe you have to take a break and go back to it, but do it until you can think about things that used to really hurt you, and you can just think about them and just view them as objective events that happened. And you could say, like, yeah, I wouldn't want that to happen to me again, but like, think about it, find peace with it until you can think about those things and not have it really upset you. I hope this helps. I truly hope this helps because I really just kind of poured out just some personal information here. So hopefully it was for a good reason. Um, have the best week you can. All dogs gotta eat.